Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona Al-Idrisi, author of the Muslim Nafs book. In today's podcast, I will be speaking about the rise and fall of the empath. Now, this podcast follows on from the previous podcast about Iblis because I want to dive in deeper to how an empath can actually downgrade their level of nafs from a nafs al-mutma'inna to a nafs al-lawama if they do not take care of their empathy. And by taking care of their empathy, I mean to protect it from the whispers of the shaitan that comes to us every day because we have our qareen, as I've mentioned many times before. We have an evil jinn devil that speaks to us every single day, whispers negative thoughts into our minds, and it influences how we perceive and how we process a situation or an experience. And it can cause, if we act upon what the qareen is telling us, it can cause us to lose our empathy. And I'm going to explain that, inshallah, how that's done in this podcast. So as I've explained before in previous podcasts, your empathy is actually connected to your faith, and your faith is connected to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is a trait of a true believer to have a high level of empathy. So when the shaitan comes to, or your qareen comes to influence you, ultimately he or she will want to destroy your connection with your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he does that by influencing how you react to a certain situation that will lower your level of faith. And when you lower your level of faith and tawakkul in a situation, you have now downgraded your level of nafs. And obviously this is not permanent, this is something that can always be rectified, but it happens to the best of us. It happens to people who are even supernova empaths, because supernova empaths will also be tested. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test everybody. And the evidence for this, if you don't know already, is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 214. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يأتكم مثل الذين خلوا من قبلكم مستهم البأساء والضراء وزلزلوا حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله ألا إن نصر الله قريب. And the translation is, and do you think that you will enter paradise while such trials and hardships have not yet come to you, as came to those who passed on before you? They were touched by poverty and hardships and were shaken until even the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and those who believed with him said, when is the help of Allah? Unquestionably, the help of Allah is near. So this happened during the Battle of Al-Khandaq, when the Muslims were surrounded and they didn't see any way out and they didn't see any hope for any victory, and they panicked. The Prophet and his people, they panicked because they were completely reliant on the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they were waiting and waiting and waiting, and nothing seemed to be happening. So, these people were supernova empaths. These were people who, subhanAllah, were all promised Jannah. They were all promised, the highest level of Al-Firdaus. So we're all going to get tested. We're all going to get tested, and we get tested in our iman. Guys, I'm just going to take a quick moment to kindly ask you to please like, share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please do share the videos with people who you believe will, this knowledge will really benefit. It will help the algorithm in YouTube for others to find the videos and get the help that they need, okay? So, going back to the empath. So, the Muslim empath is somebody who has a large amount of compassion for other people. So they don't oppress, they don't go out of their way to hurt anybody, they've got a high level of morals, people love them in general, okay, and they have a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what makes the Muslim empath special. The Muslim empath is someone who has tawakkul. Tawakkul is that deep trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're content with what Allah gave them, they're content with their rizq, they're at peace in their life, whatever it is that they're in, whatever situation that they're in, they say Alhamdulillah for that situation, knowing that it could always be worse. So these are some of the traits of someone who possesses the level of an-nafs al-mutma'inna, okay? Now, people can elevate from an-nafs al-ammara bis-su', the narcissist, psychopath, sociopath, all of them, they can elevate to become people of an-nafs al-mutma'inna. They can do it. It does require quite a bit of work, and it requires discipline, but it can be done. I've got a previous podcast about this in the channel. Please refer back to that if you would like information about it. So it's our level of nafs can fluctuate, okay? We will always fluctuate in our level of iman. We will not have the same level of iman every single day. But the empath will have self-awareness of that, okay? So when an empath goes through a difficult hardship or they go through a difficult experience, their iman can get hit. So the fall of the empath is not in the fact that the empath knows and expects hardships to come. Empaths all know that. Muslims all know that. We've been told in the Quran a few times that we are to expect hardships and trials, and it's a part of being a human being in this dunya, okay? And the hardships and trials that come to us, they are lessons. They are, it's a mercy from Allah. Even when a trial or a hardship comes to a narcissist or a psychopath or someone highly dangerous, it's still for their benefit because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to wake them up to something. And if they don't wake up to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to show them in that hardship, then they're just going to get even worse hardships, even more difficult hardships to experience. So it's all done out of love and out of mercy for all of us, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the window of repentance until we die, until our last breath. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enough love for everybody, until their last day. We don't know when our last day is going to be. So out of love for us, for all of us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the door of repentance. So He will send us hardships to bring us back to Him. Every hardship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends to us, the purpose of those hardships is for us to gain self-awareness and find our way back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the empath knows, because they are, they're practicing and they're believers and they read the Quran, they read Islamic books, they know that hardships are a part of this dunya, right? A part of this life. So how is an empath tested if they know this already? An empath is tested unexpectedly, okay? It will come as a complete shock out of the blue. And that can be the cause of the fall of an empath. So the rise of the empath is when they do so much and make so much effort, and they go out of their way to be good and kind to people, and they're really working hard on having a good relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're praying, they're trying to focus on their khushu' and their prayers, their focus. They are being productive in Ramadan. They're doing well with their charity. They're doing well in all areas of life. That's the rise of the empath. The rise of the empath also comes with a lot of self-awareness. When you are aware of who you are, when you are aware that to elevate, you need to decrease your level of arrogance and increase your empathy, you're on your way up. You're on your way up. And some people spend years and years and years investing in their uprising. And they do really well. That's why we have a lot of empaths in the world, because they work on themselves. They work on themselves, they heal themselves, they read, they seek knowledge. They will do whatever it takes to become elevated human beings and elevated Muslims. So a lot of people get very comfortable. And this is why in the previous podcast I narrated that story about Iblis from a different perspective, because Iblis was a supernova empath. And he got too comfortable being there. He did not realize that he would be tested. He was tested with Adam alayhi salam. And it caused the fall of the empath. It caused his downfall because his empathy drastically plummeted from not being able to deal with that hardship very well or at all. So it applies to us as well, because a lot of empaths get very comfortable. The level of arrogance that you'll find in a lot of empaths will be, it'll be found in, oh, I'm fine now, I'm okay now. The arrogance that will creep in is, I'm better than other people. I'm a Nafs al-mutma'inna, I'm way up there. Alhamdulillah, I'm not a narcissist, I'm not one of them. I'm not a psychopath. So that arrogance starts to creep in, okay? They start to see themselves as better than other people, and they get comfortable. The supernova empath or the high level empath starts to get really comfortable with being an empath. It's not always easy to maintain. Okay, it's not always easy to maintain. And again, the iman of the empath can fluctuate. One day it's good, one day it's bad, but they still remain in the level of a nafs al-mutma'inna. Now, when someone is at the level of a nafs al-mutma'inna, your qareen will work on you even harder. It will work on you even harder. You are now really hard work for your qareen, because you've managed to establish a high level of morality and a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now the qareen doesn't know what to do. The qareen doesn't know how to completely dismantle you and destroy you as a person. And that's why the qareen starts to bring in narcissists into your life, okay? You start to meet all these toxic people, and they test your patience. They test your level of morality. They test your iman. They test, everything. Because you will not know how resilient and how strong you are until you are faced with people and are dealing with people who are nothing like you. They are the complete opposite of you. So now when you're dealing with oppressors and abusers and people who have no iman, no deen, your morality and your patience and every good quality within you as an empath is now being tested, because it's easy to lose your cool with people like that. It's very easy to lose parts of your morality when you start to react in toxic ways as well. So one of the ways the qareen will try to bring you down is to coordinate with other qareens, so that a lot of toxic people start coming into your life. And that's why empaths always find themselves surrounded by narcissists who want to take from them and use them and abuse them, right? Because they have been sent to us from the shaitan to knock us down, okay? Knock us down from a nafs al-mutma'inna to a nafs al-lawwama. And their ultimate goal is to make us hit rock bottom and become people of a nafs al-ammara bis-su', right at the bottom, okay? And that's why you find a lot of people, when they're dealing with narcissists for a very long time, they start to become like them. That's why a lot of people, they come to me and say, I think it's me who's the narcissist. I never used to be like this, but 15 years into this marriage and I'm acting exactly like him or exactly like her. That's what they do. That's what your qareen does. Your qareen will, force you into a corner where you, in order to survive living with a narcissist, you now have to become another narcissist in order to survive. So that is how it happens. That's how it happens. It comes from dealing with really toxic people. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad said, leave toxic people behind. Even if they're your family members, leave them behind. Because they will drag you. Their demonic energy will drag you. They will drag you down. Demonic energy, being in the vicinity of demonic energy fields will deplete all your health, all your sanity. You'll start to even be sick. You'll start to develop illnesses, autoimmune illnesses, everything, migraines. You'll gain so much weight, or you'll have, you'll experience a lot of weight loss. You'll get cysts, you'll get tumours, you'll get blood problems, because dealing and living with a narcissist, it's just, it will deplete you from everything. And some people have had their iman completely depleted from them as well, because they start to ask, why does this happen to me? I've been a good person all my life. Why is this happening to me? I hate myself. I hate my life. I want to die. I hate God. I hate this. I hate that. So this is how the empath is pushed from the level of being a nafs al-mutma'inna. So if we go to the Quran verse in Surah Al-Isra, verse 64, it's a verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to the shaitan when he was expelled from paradise. And he said to him, واستفزز من استطعت منهم بصوتك واجلب عليهم بخيلك ورجلك وشاركهم في الأموال والأولاد وعدهم وما يعدهم الشيطان إلا غرورا. And the translation is, so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is challenging. He's challenging the shaitan. He said, and incite whoever you can of the humans with your whisperings, mobilize against them all your soldiers and children, manipulate them in their wealth and children, and make them promises. But Satan promises them nothing but delusion. Allah then goes on to say, إن عبادي ليس لك عليهم سلطان وكفى بربك وكيلا. Allah added, you will truly have no authority over my loyal servants, and sufficient is your Lord as a guardian. So here we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test the loyalty of the empaths, okay? Because those who are going to follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are the ones who are going to be loyal in times of hardships. In times of hardships. Because you will often find that in times of hardships, people blame Allah for their hardship. People will start to believe that Allah hates them in their hardship. People start to disbelieve in a God during their hardship. So it is during the hardships when you're tested. Okay? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 155, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We will certainly test you with a touch of fear and famine and loss of property, wealth, life and crops, and give good news to those who patiently endure, those who, when faced with a disaster, say, surely to Allah we belong, and to Him we will all return. So the believer is tested in that moment of hardship. Now, like I said before, the practicing Muslim empath already knows this. They already know that hardships are coming, that, there will be trials and there will be tribulations. However, the way an empath is tested is when the calamity comes في لحظة غفلة. لحظة غفلة means when it's so unexpected, because you've got too comfortable. You've got too comfortable with, the belief that, Allah loves me, I'm not going to have those tests, life is good, my prayers are all good, everything is good, alhamdulillah for everything. So, people start to forget. People start to forget about the hardships and calamities that could possibly come their way. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a calamity that comes out of the blue. And you will find that it is always in your attachments. Okay? So we already know as Muslims that we shouldn't be attached to anyone or anything more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because as soon as we start to rely on other people more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we now face a problem. And the problem that we're facing here is if we were to lose that thing or that person, we now become lost. We become depressed. We will fall into a depression because we had placed so much happiness in that person, or we placed a lot of hope, or we had a lot of dreams, attached to that person, lots of future dreams, lots of future plans, lots of future goals. So we will be tested with that person, with the loss of that person. If it's not a person, if it's a thing, for example, a company, business, a car, money, it could even be pets, like really beloved pets to you. If you lose them because you're so attached to them, there are some people who are so attached to their cars, so attached to money. Whatever you're obsessed with, whatever you are so attached to, it could be anything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test you with that. And He'll test you with it unexpectedly, because it's His way of awakening you to the fact that, hey, you're forgetting about me. You're forgetting about me, and you've put all of your hope and all your love and all of your reliance on this money or these pets or this person to get you through life. What's going to happen if these, if this person dies? What's going to happen if you lose your money? What's going to happen if you lose everything that you own? What's going to happen to you then? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to wake you up to something. When He sends you a hardship or a calamity, it's to wake you up and to show you that your iman needs working on and your tawakkul needs working on, and you need to start prioritizing Him more in your life. Okay, I saw a case the other day, a court case, where high-level empath, his best friend was shot. Drive-by shooting. His best friend was shot. Great guy. Both of them used to go to the masjid. Both of them. This was a case in America, and the guy who survived. So both of them were shot at. One of them survived, and the other one died. The guy who survived completely hit rock bottom. He completely hit rock bottom. And subhanAllah, his level of nafs plummeted dramatically, because now he's starting to blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why him? Why this person? Why did you allow them to kill this person? He was a good person. He was, he used to go to the masjid. He used to do this and he used to give a lot of charity. And, why was he to die in this way? And, this is one of the examples that I can give you of something that can dramatically happen in an empath's life that can send them plummeting, because they've forgotten about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they've forgotten about tawakkul, they've forgotten about the hardships and trials coming their way because they get comfortable. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that the best of the believers are those who immediately say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, when a calamity or a hardship happens. It's not when it happens half an hour later or the next day you remember to say Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, whether it's a few hours or the next day or a couple of days or a week later. The more you delay saying Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, the more it will indicate that you've got a faith problem, that you have got so comfortable as an empath that you've forgotten Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have forgotten Him. Because when Allah tested your loyalty, when He tested your level of tawakkul, trust in His plan and why He takes things and people away at a certain time, if you were to react really badly, that means that Qareen took that as an opportunity to influence how you deal with that situation and that experience at that time. So this is going back to the ayah of the Quran verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conversing with the shaitan when he said, when Allah challenged him and he said, well, do your best. My loyal servants are those who are going to remember me as soon as a calamity strikes, as soon as they need help. Because the only one who can help in that time is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? If you've lost everything, if someone's died, if someone's, you should be, as an empath, you should be turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for comfort and answers. And, and for that faith, you need that faith injection. And that's why it's important to surround yourself with good people. If you don't have good people around you, when calamities strike, as an empath, you can lose so much of your faith. Because, again, I come across it all the time, someone gets involved with a narcissist or someone marries a narcissist and they say, why me? Why does Allah hate me? Why did I get a narcissist? Why did I have to marry someone like that? Why did Allah not send me someone nice? Why did this person have to die? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does it for a reason? Every calamity that we are faced with comes with a reason. We all have those moments. We all have those really down moments. And like I said, it's the attachments. It's the attachments that we have in this dunya that will bring us down. We're not supposed to be so obsessively attached to things and obsessively love things and people, because those things can leave us and those people will die. Either we die before them or they die before us. It's coming. That day is coming. And even though a lot of people know that, they still won't deal with it well when it does eventually happen. Because it comes as a shock, and it comes when it's least expected. They get a call one day, being informed that, sorry to tell you, but your brother just died in a car accident, or, something's just happened to your child, or, it happens. It happens. And there's nothing you can do about it. But seek that comfort in trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. Okay? And to know and to be 100% certain that any calamity that comes your way is to wake you up to something. It's not to punish you. It's not to downgrade you permanently, because you can always bounce back and you can always learn and not do that same mistake again of, reacting in a really bad way. Like I had a client who said to me, he was involved in a car accident, and he said one of the things that really upset him after he reflected on the car accident was when the car hit his car, he just started swearing. He started swearing and swearing and swearing. He said, number one, I forgot to say the shahada in case I was about to be killed in that car accident. And second of all, I was cursing my luck. He said, I just kept cursing my luck, my bad luck. It's like I'd had a bad week that week, and this was the last thing I'd expected. Especially because the car, he'd only bought it a few months ago. So it was still, fairly new, a fairly expensive car. And it just really upset him. He's like, God, why is this happening to me? Why does this always happen to me? Why is my luck so bad? Now your reaction that's been influenced by your qareen has now downgraded your level of nafs. Because you reacted in the wrong way. Now, after self-reflection, he realised, actually, I shouldn't have reacted that way. And, you come to learn that these are experiences that you're going to have in life that are going to test you. This is not going to be the first. And it hasn't been the first. You might get another 10 before you die. You might get another 10 shock moments. And, bad news and things that might happen. Until you're purified, until your iman is completely purified before you die, because Allah wants you to reach that level of tawakkul, and He will put you through as many hardships as possible until you reach that level of tawakkul. And that level of tawakkul will only come when you're faced with a calamity or a hardship, and the first thing you say is, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Because you remember, this is from Allah. This is from Allah. There's good in it. There's a reason behind it. There's a reason why I lost all this money. It's okay. There's a reason why this person died now. It might have been in their benefit. I can't attach it to me. There's a reason why this baby died. There's a reason why a war broke out. There's a reason why I lost my house. There's a reason why this. There's a reason why that. So you will only reach that level of taqwa and tawakkul and love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when your loyalty, your level of loyalty has reached that level where the first thing that comes to your mind, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. None of this is going to stay. All of this will perish. This entire dunya will perish. None of us will live forever. We might live until next week. Some of us might live until tomorrow. We don't know. It's not worth allowing our qareen, if you're an empath, it's not worth allowing your qareen to bring you down from your level of nafs, your grand level of nafs, because of this. After all the hard work you have spent and the time and, the love that you put into people and the compassion you put into people and the empathy that you have, you've worked a long time on it. You've worked a long time to heal, and you've worked a long time to get to a healthy place where you can help other people and become, the great empathic person that you are. Have that self-awareness. And you have that self-awareness by actually looking right now, today, after this podcast, look at all of the things and the people that you are very attached to. Because I'm telling you, the hardships that are coming will hit those first. Will hit those things and those people first. Because you're too attached to them. I'm going to share a personal story of something that happened to me last year. something similar, and it really woke me up to the attachments that I have in my life, okay? So I have pet rabbits, and I've always had them, since I was little. Absolutely adore the bones of them, all right? Now, this might seem trivial to some people, but I just want you to bear with me while I tell this story, because you will understand the point of it after I finish. So I'm an animal person. I love my animals, and since I was little, I have grown up with animals. I've been in a farm environment for most of my life. Okay, country environment, farm environment. So I've grown a deep attachment to animals. So during my healing journey, I managed to disconnect from people. So subhanAllah, I always found that my hardships do not target the people in my life, because I don't have attachments. I don't have deep attachments to them. But my hardships have always been targeted towards the animals that I felt so attached to. So last year, we had this horrible heat wave, and I think temperatures hit about 39 or 40 in the UK. And rabbits don't do well in the heat. So they can overheat, and then they get a seizure, and then the seizure leads to a heart attack. So it can kill them instantly if they overheat and they're not cooled down, soon enough. So I'm panicking because I can see that they're all hyperventilating, and it was really, really hot. They're really fluffy, and I thought, oh my goodness, I was really going out of my way. I was putting fans, ice packs, everything, just to ensure that they survive. Now, I had one particular rabbit that I was very attached to, and this rabbit was extremely affectionate, extremely cuddly, so sweet-natured. He was my favourite, my absolute favourite. I'd had him for a few years, and honestly, he was just the sweetest thing ever. So I am, panicking, and I'm doing my best to, ensure that they're all comfortable and everything. And because it was so hot, I thought, let me go and do the laundry. I went to do the laundry. I came to hang it outside, and I hear something. I hear a horrible noise outside. So at that time, I didn't think that, something was wrong with the rabbits. I thought it was something else. So, I carried on doing the laundry, and then I heard lots of thumping. So when rabbits thump, they want to draw your attention to something. So anyway, so I ran, and I went to where the hutches were, and I saw that all of them were okay apart from that one. That particular rabbit, he was laid on his side, completely gone, completely dead. Tried to revive him. I tried everything, totally gone. But I had gone into panic mode. I had a complete breakdown. I was absolutely devastated because it was so unexpected. I had just gone to do the laundry, thinking that they were all okay. They all had their ice packs and cold water and everything, and the fans. I thought they'll be fine. It was the last thing I expected. It just came out of the blue. That particular one would be the one to have the seizure and die. So I was not thinking of inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un at that time. I panicked. I just went into a complete panic. I just couldn't stop crying. I was just devastated. And my neighbour was in her garden, and she rushed round. She she heard a commotion, and she rushed round. She was like, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And, I was just so upset. I was just so upset. And what was coming into my head at that time was, Ya Allah, why this one? Why did it have to be this one? Because I was in the midst of my, of my grief and being so upset. And my qareen overtook me at that time. My qareen did overtake me, because I started thinking, why this one? Ya Allah, why did, out of all the rabbits in the world, why this one? So, subhanAllah, it took me a while to calm down. It was my mom who calmed me down, and she was the one who kept reminding me, it's fine, it was his time, it's because you're so attached to them emotionally, you've reacted like this. And she kept reminding me, Qadar Allah, it's fine, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed. His time had come. There's nothing you could have done about that. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe I could have put more ice packs for him. I could have done this and I could have done that. And my mum's like getting frustrated at me now. And she's like, because she's disconnected from them emotionally, she was able to deal with it in a much better way. So anyway, I calmed down that evening and, I thought, alhamdulillah, I calmed down. I thought, okay, it was his time to go. There's nothing I could have done about it. No matter what I did, there's nothing I could have done about it. But just because I was such an emotional wreck, I could not bring myself to clean out his cage. So I thought I'll just leave it for tomorrow. So the next day came in the morning and I thought, let me just get this done. So my neighbour came over, she helped me bury him, and I thought, let me clean out his hutch. Now, when I was cleaning out his hutch, I noticed that there was something strange about his droppings. And I'd never seen droppings like that before. I thought, I've not seen that before. Let me call the vet and just ask, what that means. So called the vet and I explained. I didn't tell the vet that the rabbit had died. I just said, look, I found these droppings in the hutch. What does it mean? And he said, do you have other rabbits? I said, yes. He said, you need to isolate them immediately because it indicates that he's got a contagious disease called myxomatosis, and myxomatosis can be lethal for rabbits. So he said, you need to isolate him from the others. You need to completely disinfect his hutch and you need to bring him into the surgery immediately so that we can give him medications for it before it's too late. Now, rabbits are prey animals, so when they're sick, they hide it very well and they will bury their droppings, under the hay or under the straw or the sawdust so that, because it's their natural instinct to not show predators that they're sick and that they're weak and vulnerable and easy to catch. So it can be a while before you actually notice that a rabbit is actually sick. So I said to him, he actually died last night. Like he had a seizure and died yesterday. And he's like, you need to test the other rabbits, to make sure that they don't have myxomatosis, because if they do, it will get the rest of them. All of them will die. And I remember at that moment, I got off the phone and I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop crying. And not because of the rabbit this time, but because of Allah's mercy. And also from shame that I actually had the audacity to question Allah's divine decree. Because Allah knows best. Even when a calamity hits you, it's never to punish you. It's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that there's a bigger reason behind it. So he had to allow this one to die to save the others. And subhanAllah, since last year, none of them have died. And that's because I made a decision from that point onwards to not be so attached anymore. To not be so attached to my animals, because it could have been the downfall of me. And the lesson that I took from that is, number one, not to be too attached to anyone or anything. And number two, to always remember that there's a bigger reason, there's a bigger plan for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking away something or somebody from your life. There's always a bigger plan. It's never to hurt you. You will always find Allah's love, even in the hardest calamity, even in the harshest trials and hardships. And we shouldn't have that, that level of arrogance within us to question why Allah took away someone or something from our lives when we loved it, just because we loved that person or we loved that thing or we loved that company or that car, whatever, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should keep it for us. No. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. Perhaps you may love something, but it's bad for you. Like, would it have been better for my favourite rabbit to die or for them all to die? Because honestly, that would have absolutely destroyed me if all of them had died from the same disease all in one go. And I've spoken to people and it's happened to them. I've spoken to people who have had, rabbits that have all died one after the other in the same week from myxomatosis. So, it's just one of those things where you have to learn from that experience and you re-elevate yourself again. Because you do take a hit and you can drop. But when you learn the lesson, disconnect yourselves from those things and people that you love so much. because they will be the cause of your downfall. Those attachments will be the causes of your downfall. After that, I got them vaccinated, and I was more careful, looking out for signs of illnesses. And subhanAllah, I found that when I disconnected myself, they've all been fine. Nothing's happened to them since then because I'm not attached. And the most amazing thing that I've actually noticed is that Allah will give you more of what you love if you're not attached to them. He will give you more money if you're not attached to money. And He'll give you longer lasting relationships with the people that you love when you're not completely attached to them. Even if it's your husband or wife, don't be too attached to them, so that if they were to die one day, you're not going to completely lose yourself in grief. I've got clients that have been grieving for 20 years over, a lost husband or a lost wife. They're still not over it because of their level of attachment, to them. You see people as well, like in the Western world, who are so attached to their dogs. If a dog dies and that dog has been in their family for like 15 years, it can kill people. People can actually die from a broken heart because they cannot recover from the grief that's a result of a very, very, very strong attachment. So like now, for example, I have trained my mind and my psyche and everything within me to be prepared for any calamities to come my way now unexpectedly. And that includes, the death of a parent, the death of any more rabbits. Like, I'm already expecting it now. I'm expecting it. Like, I might wake up one day and one of them might die. I might get some bad news one day. I might get a phone call with, something so depressing to hear. But my psyche is now prepared for it. I'm mentally preparing myself to receive any kind of bad news in regards to who and what I love so much. I'm preparing myself for it. And I have promised myself that the next time anything like that happens again, I will say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, immediately. Because as soon as you say it immediately, when something really bad happens to you, it brings you back to reality. It's like, okay, you've put Allah at the forefront of everything, and now you can deal with the grief in a much healthier and a better way. But if you forget about that, you now have to live through all of that grief unnecessarily sometimes, only to find out later that what happened was in your own good, was for your own good or for the good of the other person, because maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieved somebody else from an illness or a pain by allowing them to die so suddenly, or we don't know. Okay, sometimes we know and sometimes we won't find out. But we have to have that tawakkul, and that preparation. We need to be mentally and emotionally prepared for, to receive such difficult news, so that our qareen does not take it as an opportunity to, to make us fall. Expect that phone call from somebody to let you know that a parent's died, or your siblings have died, or a child has died, or a baby didn't make it, a baby's been stillborn. All of these things can happen to us in our lives. And if we are not prepared to deal with them properly, they can be the cause of us completely, eradicating all of that beautiful empathy within us. It can. I mean, I've seen some people who have been completely destroyed after giving birth to a baby who's, was born stillborn. And, not knowing that that baby is going to be a shafa'ah, they're going to intercede for you on the Day of Judgment. Any child who dies before the age of puberty will intercede for you on the Day of Judgment. That's a golden ticket for you right there. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed that baby to die so that you could have a golden ticket on the Day of Judgment, because Allah knows that you'll need it. Allah knows that you'll need it. And sometimes people have multiple stillborn babies. Some people have multiple miscarriages, and sometimes, at 5, 6, 7 months as well. They'll be 6, 7 months pregnant and they'll still have a miscarriage. They'll still have a baby who's passed away. All of those are golden tickets. But because of the grief, we can't, we don't remember quickly enough that this is not a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's protection. It's protection for us, or Allah is saving something for us. It's one of the two. He's either saving something for us for later, or He's protecting us from something, or He just wants us to come to the realization that everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything. We have to have that tawakkul and that belief in the divine decree. This is one of the 6 pillars of Iman. The belief in al-qada wal-qadar. Whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens was meant to happen. People die when they're meant to die. Animals die when they're meant to die. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already written the days that they will die, the times that they will die. So for us to get so depressed over it can only come from us being overly attached to those people and overly attached to material things and things that have sentimental value and so on. It can only come from that. My best friend, she, mashallah, she's the happiest, the most content person that I know. I've known her for such a long time, and she's always been the same person because she has that level of faith. She tells me all the time, she lets her kids go out and play, and they're in the park and everything, and I always say to her, do you not worry that something's they might fall and you're not there, and she's like, Mona, whatever happens. She's like, I'm already prepared. One day someone might give me a call and say something terrible has happened to your child, or your child has passed away. She said, I'm already prepared for that. She's like, I love my kids to death, but I'm not attached to them like that, because I have to protect myself. I have to protect my tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and my belief. So, I read the morning and evening adhkar on them. I pray that Allah protects them. I pray that Allah saves them from harm. And I let them go to school. I let them go to the park. I let them do, I let them go to all these kid zone places. And she said, things can happen to kids anywhere. Kids have died at school. So she said, I do what I can as a mother, what's in my hands, and the rest is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But she says, I live my life. She's like, even with my husband, even with my dad, even with, my closest friends, I live my life knowing that one day I could get that call. And it could be a call that involves bad news. And she said, I don't want it to affect me so badly, because it affected her when her mother died. When her mother died many years ago from cancer, she was quite young when it happened. She was in her teenage years, and she went into a deep depression. And she said, I never want to go through that again. But subhanAllah, that calamity of losing her mother made her such a strong believer, mashallah. So now, she learnt from that lesson, and now she's applied it to everything in her life. She's not attached to anything. There is nothing that I can say she's attached to. She enjoys her life, she enjoys her marriage, she enjoys her kids, but she's not, she does have a certain degree of attachment to them, but not that attachment to the point where she would be absolutely devastated and grieve for such a long time if she were to lose anybody, because she's prepared herself mentally for, to save herself. You've got to save your iman. You've got to think of your iman. You've got to think of your own, health and well-being sometimes. And sometimes, you will love somebody so much. You might have a husband or a wife and children. You love them so much. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is, in the back of your mind, you need to always remind yourself that they will not and may not be around for as long as you think they will be. And once you can come to that, level of understanding with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will just continue giving you. My best friend only wanted 2 kids, and mashallah, she's got 6 now. Allah will give you so much more of what you're not attached to. You're not attached to children, I'll give you more. You're not attached to money, I'll give you more. My rabbits have multiplied since last year because I've disconnected myself emotionally from ever feeling that grief again if I was to lose any of them, because I know there's a bigger purpose and there's a bigger reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away His creation and takes away what we love. I know that. And subhanAllah, I have more this year than I did last year. So, if you want more of the good in your life, step back. Okay? Step back and start getting into the habit of training yourself to say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, because that will be your comfort and that is what will save you. That ayah is going to save your life. And a couple of things have happened to me since then, not to do with the rabbits, but other things. And I've caught myself in those moments. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I've been fine. I've been totally fine. Moved on. Everything's been fine. And I thought, wow, that's actually a superpower. It's actually a superpower to have that level of tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'll only get through it if you always remind yourself. Always check in with yourself. With the things and the people whom you're attached to. When you find yourself getting a bit too attached, hey, check in with yourself, okay? Check in with yourself. Like, hey, I think I'm getting a bit too attached to this person, or too attached to what I've got, too attached to my lifestyle, too attached to this house, too attached to these friends. People lose friends all the time. People are forced to move out of the house they live in all the time because they can't afford the rent anymore or afford the mortgage anymore. People are forced to detach from their children because their children are either taken away in a horrible child custody case. Just giving you an example of, a different type of way. You could have, people you love taken away from you. It could be that way. It could be that way. In a child custody case where you don't see your kids for months. It all happens with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a divine decree for it. And you will be compensated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you so much reward if you are to react in the right way. That is what will make you the loyal servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will make you amongst those people who have a nafs al-mutma'inna and you're loyal. Loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everything. If you have no tawakkul and you have no loyalty and you have no sense of, understanding and learning from your experiences, you've got a lot of work to do on yourself. Think back to the last calamity you had. Okay, this is an exercise for you. Think back to the last hardship you had when you lost something so dear to you or someone so dear to you. And ask yourself, how did I react? How did I react and am I prepared for what's to come? How did I react and how can I improve? How did I react and what am I going to do next time? Something like that hits me so I can elevate myself. So if you feel like your iman is low right now, your iman has taken a hit, someone's walked out of your life who you loved so much, maybe, you've just got a divorce, maybe you didn't want that divorce, but that person divorced you and discarded you and walked out of your life. Whatever it is, if you're in that situation right now, I want you to get into the habit of practicing Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Okay? This life is so temporary. This life is so short. We are going to lose so much. But it's not worth the empath falling because of a weak moment. And the reason why I'm making this podcast today is because some people don't come back up. There are some empaths, when they fall and hit rock bottom, they can't get back up. And that's why you find a lot of empaths and practicing Muslims become atheists. You see it. There are ex-Muslim forums where they used to be so practicing, brilliant people, and then a hardship came their way and it made them doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It made them doubt everything they believe in. It made them doubt who they are as people and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they remained in a low state of nafs, a low level of nafs. Some people don't get back up after being a super empath or a high level empath. Some people can't get back up, especially when you don't have your support. If you're living alone and you don't have a good support system, this is so important for you. This is so important for you to take on board, because you have to rely on yourself to get yourself out of a difficult pit when that calamity strikes. You've got to really work on your mental health, and you've got to work on really strengthening your tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if you're on your own, you're going to be hit the worst. Because other people who have a support system can be helped, Someone might, you'll get people coming to remind you, hey, don't forget this is from Allah. Don't forget there's a lesson. Don't forget this is love. Don't forget this is not punishment. Don't forget this is mercy. Don't forget you'll find out later why this had to happen now. Good friends and a good husband and a good wife they're everything. That's why you've got to choose wisely when you get married, because if you marry somebody who doesn't have that tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're not going to help you in these hardships. They're going to support you in your depression. They're going to encourage your depression. They'll say it's fine, grieve it out. A year passes, 2 years passes. They're not going to help you. They're going to encourage you until they get fed up of having to deal with it, of having to deal with your anxiety and depression. And then a divorce happens, right? So many times people have got divorces because they're like, I can't deal with my partner anymore. It's been 5 years and she's still grieving over her grandmother. 5 years and she's still grieving over, her father who passed away. Sometimes the person you're living with will eventually get tired of having to deal with it, because it's draining for them as well. So you need to be with people, whether it's friends, a spouse, whoever, who has a high level of tawakkul. Don't marry anyone who doesn't have a high level of tawakkul, because trust me, you're going to need those people around you when really difficult hardships come your way. Really difficult hardships. And remove yourself from the company of those who support you in you feeling a certain way, in a negative way. Like, yeah, you know what, you're right. I don't think there is a God, I don't think God loves us, You get friends like that who encourage you to believe a certain way. Remove yourselves from their company immediately, because they're going to keep you in a very low state of a nafs al-lawwama or a nafs al-ammara bis-su'. You're going to plummet there by having the wrong types of people around you who will encourage what the qareen is telling you, because their qareens have all worked on them too. Okay? So I hope that helps, inshallah. It's just a reminder. It's something that I thought about the other day that I really wanted to share. I really wanted to share that story with you, because Allah's love is always planted in our hardships, okay? It's always planted in our hardships, and we have to make sure that we do die as empaths. And if you're not an empath, I hope this has inspired you to, inshallah, work on yourself. I hope this will inspire you to really heal from whatever traumas you've been through, because you going through traumas when you were a child it's not your fault. But you choosing to remain as an adult, as an unhealed adult, is your problem. Because now you choose to live this way. You choose to carry your childhood traumas with you. You should want to have that desire to change and be better and get rid of all your traumas and understand your traumas. And you can't get rid of them if you don't understand them. So, elevate yourselves. And I hope that, inshallah, this will help at least one person today. Because people really underestimate the power of tawakkul, and they really underestimate the damage it can cause to an empath who is very comfortable being where they are in life. Okay? Those hardships are coming, whether we like it or not. We have to be prepared to work on our tawakkul and work on ourselves and work on having a better view of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, always look at him in the best way when a calamity happens, because when you look at him in the best way as someone merciful and loving, then we will heal quicker, we will move on faster, and we will elevate our nafs. We will become more, we want to reach al-maqam al-mahmud. Al-maqam al-mahmud with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that beautiful place, that beautiful elevated place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of our tawakkul and our trust in how He operates the affairs in our life. So I hope that's helped, inshallah. I really hope that you've enjoyed the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you have stayed until now, again, please like, share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If there are people who could really benefit from this knowledge, whether they be Muslims or non-Muslims, by the way. I've got non-Muslims emailing me. They're loving my podcasts and they're learning so much. So, send it to everyone that you know. Inshallah, this will, help people heal. It will help people deal with their hardships better. And, inshallah, it will just make one person, be inspired enough to want to change their lives. Maybe you might send, some beneficial knowledge to somebody. It might save their life. If it's just one person you manage to save in your entire life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forget that. He will not forget that for you. So I'll end it here. And inshallah, the next podcast to come will be more about parenting, child custody, and how to raise children to not be narcissistic and codependent. So until then, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.